Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about the difference between a data scientist and a data engineer. Now, even though I am a data scientist, I also work closely with data engineers in a data science team. So I know a lot of the work that they do, the tools that they use, and the skills required as a data engineer. And so I have a pretty good understanding of each position and the differences between these two jobs. So here are the four main areas that I'll go through for each job. The first one would be the responsibilities. Basically, it's the day-to-day work that you do. And then the second one, I'll move to the skill sets that you need in order to perform the task. The third one would be the tools required to do the job. And finally is the salary from junior to senior role for each position. So after covering all this, I also talk about which job would be best for you. So let's get started. So let's start with the responsibilities for each role. Essentially, it's your day-to-day work for each position. For example, data scientist, all you have to do is just use data to solve business problems. So what that means is that you have to develop hypotheses and sometimes conduct experiments, A/B tests to know what works and what doesn't work. So for example, if you are running a marketing campaign, you need to check if the marketing campaign gives you certain ROI or not. And that's why you have to conduct certain experiments for these marketing campaigns as a data scientist. But most of the time you'll be doing data cleaning. That would consume, I would say, almost 80 to 90% of your time, because data in reality, in real world, doesn't come in a very clean and easy to understand format. You have to spend your time really to clean it, make sense of it, and before doing all these data analytics and visualization to generate insights, identify some interesting trends and patterns from the data. Once you are done with this, if your project requires you to do some machine learning model building, then yes, you have to build some ML models or deep learning models based on the project that you are working on. And finally, once you have done the analytics, the visualization, identify the insights, all of this stuff, finally, the final step is to present the insights to your stakeholders, and then you need to recommend some actionable steps for your boss, for your managers to take based on your insights. For data engineer, those people would more be like building and maintaining data infrastructure and also the pipelines. So it's a lot about data integration, data collection, making sure that they can move the data from point A to point B and store it in a database. And once the data is stored in the database, they have to write certain SQL queries to collect the data for data scientists or PM, product manager, to use. Data engineer also design and build and maintain architecture, including databases, SQL, NoSQL, or even distributed systems on the cloud or using some on-premise servers. And finally, as a data engineer, you also need to ensure consistent, good data quality, accuracy, and also efficiency, because as a data engineer, your main job is really to make sure that you are able to collect the data, you are able to store the data, making sure that the data quality is good, so that when data scientists, when data analysts come in to analyze the data, they are able to get the data that is of high quality without any compromise or without any missing data. In terms of the skills required for each job, so for data scientists, in general, all you need is the programming skill set. Could be Python, could be R, whatever, MATLAB, C#, all this stuff. You also need to know statistics. You also need to have certain knowledge of math, because when you're dealing with, especially machine learning models, you have to be really good at calculus and all of these things. And for statistics, because you have to do a lot of A/B tests, you need to make sure that your insights are statistical, significant, all sorts of things. So this is where the statistics knowledge comes in as a data scientist. The third one is the machine learning part. If you need to build any machine learning models, you have to know what each machine learning model does, what they are good at, what they fit in certain projects, and also their limitation, because every single machine learning model has their own limitation. And final one would be the storytelling skills, because you have to present your insights to your stakeholders, and therefore you have to be very good at telling stories to your stakeholders to make sure that you are able to convince them to take action based on your recommendations as a data scientist. For data engineer, you need to have a more technical skill set in terms of the programming and also software engineering. Why? Because as a data engineer, you have to be very good at writing production code and deploy it into production environment to make sure that the pipeline is not broken once you deploy that. And you also have to be very good at data modeling, because whenever you are designing a database, let's say MongoDB, you have to design the schema, the limitation of it. Basically, you need to identify the metadata, the data fields, what are the columns here, what are the data fields here, how big is the data, and then from there, based on the business requirement, you put into your data modeling and then design the database architecture to make sure that it is robust and scalable. And therefore, this requires some software engineering background. So if you're a software engineer trying to go into data engineering space, you have a very good advantage that most people don't have. Also, you need to be experienced in ETL, because when you are building a data pipeline, you have to transform a lot of data, you have to load the data. And the fifth one would be the cloud computing, because we are in the era of essentially everything is on the cloud, AWS, Azure, GCP. So if you're working for a startup, big company or whatever, chances are their solution is already hosted on cloud, and therefore you have to be familiar with one of these cloud platforms to do your job. And finally is the big data technology. Could be Hadoop, Spark, Scala, all this kind of thing, for you to deploy your solution in the big data ecosystem. So all in all, these are some of the skill set that you need to have as a data engineer. So now that you understand the skills required for each job, let's dive a bit deeper to understand the kind of tools that they use as a data scientist or a data engineer. Now for data scientists, these are the general tools that you have under your belt that you need to use. So for example, in general, Python is one of the most common programming languages that a lot of data scientists nowadays in the industry are using. And some of the Python libraries that they use include, pandas for data cleaning and analysis, Matplotlib and Seaborn for data visualization. And the second tool is the second most popular one, which is SQL or NoSQL kind of query language. I would say SQL is more of the most common query language that most data scientists are using, because a lot of databases nowadays, be it for small to big companies, they already have their own SQL database hosted somewhere. And as a data scientist, all you have to do is to use SQL to query the data out and make some analysis and present the insights. And the third one would be Tableau or Power BI. So these are the two most common data visualization dashboard used by either enterprises, small companies to big companies. And finally, the fourth one is the machine learning framework or libraries that you have to use as a data scientist. The easiest and the most common one is the scikit-learn, which is one of the Python libraries that most data scientists are using. If you want to build more complex machine learning models like neural network or deep learning models, then you have to use TensorFlow or PyTorch depending on your needs. And the final one is the cloud computing platform. I mentioned that cloud is everywhere nowadays, be it for small to big companies. So therefore, as a data scientist, you have to be familiar with at least one of the cloud computing platforms. I would say AWS is the one of the most popular ones nowadays. So if you just know one of the cloud computing platforms to know how to deploy your solution on a cloud, how to deploy your ML models on a cloud, how to use it in production, that will give you a huge advantage as a data scientist. Now, what about data engineers? As I mentioned, data engineer, they need to be more technical in a way. They need to have some, software engineering background in some way. Of course, a lot of data engineers, they also use Python, SQL, NoSQL query language, because they have to collect the data and share it with data scientists or the rest of the team. And also Airflow, because when it comes to data engineering, there are so many different, I would say, moving parts or puzzle that you have to piece everything together to run the full data pipeline workflow. The next one would be the more of the data, big data ecosystem, the tool set, including Hadoop, Apache Spark or Kafka. You use Spark whenever you want to do a large-scale distributed computing on your data set. You use Kafka mainly because when you have a huge volume of data that you have to ingest in real time. Similarly to Hive for computing, Scala, similar to Spark, for distributed computing, And finally is again the cloud computing platform, including AWS, GCP, or Azure. It's up to you which platform that you want to learn. Finally, let's talk about the salary. This is the most exciting part, and I'm sure a lot of you have the same questions. So here I'm going to present you the salary range, I would say, not an exact figure, but a range of salary from junior to middle level and also to senior level role for data scientist and data engineer. Again, I would like to emphasize that the average salary, it really depends on the country that you are in. So let's talk about data scientist role. If you are going in as a junior data scientist, you earn probably around 65k to 85k per year. But once you have gained 1 or 2 years of experience, then you enter into the mid-level data scientist, which is about 85 to 120k. So that is like about I would say 9 to 10k a month. And finally, once you get enough experience, then you move to the senior level, and that ranges from 120k to 150k in general. What about data engineer? So if you are starting out as a data engineer, you start mostly around 55k to 80k, around that. After 1 or 2 years, if you get promoted to a mid-level data engineer, you will be taking around 80k to 100k. And finally, when you move to a senior level after a few years working, then you get around 100k to 140k. Alright, now that we have covered the 4 main areas, here's the next question, right? So what exactly is best for you? So here are the few factors that I would consider whenever it comes to choosing if I want to become a data scientist or if I want to become a data engineer. So let's talk about data scientist role first. I would say probably data scientist role is best for you if you fit in these following criteria. You like to solve ambiguous and hard business problems using data. Again, as I said, as a data scientist, all you have to do is to use data to solve business problems. But a lot of times these problems are very vague. Sometimes they are not even a well-defined problems. So if you like to solve these kind of vague and hard problems, then you are good to go. If you are curious to understand business domains, understand the knowledge, understand the business, like to ask questions and also to test your assumptions, your hypotheses to check if you are right or wrong, then data scientist is a right fit for you, because you are like a detective, always trying to investigate, trying to find out what exactly is the truth. And finally, you enjoy running data analysis, also building machine learning models and presenting insights to stakeholders. Data scientist is not just about sitting on your table, facing your monitor and writing code. And sometimes, a lot of times, you also need to present your insights to stakeholders. It involves a lot of talking, convincing, and selling sometimes to just convince your stakeholders to take action. So these are some of the factors. If you enjoy doing this stuff as a data scientist, then I would say data scientist is a right fit for you. Now, what about data engineer? Data engineer would be the best for you if you like to deal with data infrastructure, architecture, databases that store and organize data. So a lot of these are more of the back-end kind of technical work. The second one, you enjoy helping companies save time and resources by building efficient data pipelines. And final one, you would like being a data engineer if you find purpose in building tools to help others like data scientists or data analysts to do their jobs for them. These are the few criteria you would consider if you want to go into the data engineer role. Overall, it is really up to you which job you want to choose. I think basically you have to just understand what you are good at, understand or know what you enjoy doing. And I think both of these jobs are really, really fun and rewarding career, because they're becoming more in demand moving forward. Even now, I can see it is growing like super fast. For startups to big companies, they're all hiring data engineers and data scientists. So getting started now, know what you are good at and know what you want, and just going for it is really the best advice that I got for you. So yeah, that's all I have, and thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.